some footage, it might have been CTV coverage, I'm not sure, one of the local television stations, of your retirement, and it showed you at a very intensely emotional moment. It was so authentic. I mean, just stop the viewer. Was it really difficult to leave politics?
Well, after 30 years, like any career, I think people leave with a mixed feeling. A feeling of, hopefully, of accomplishment for what you've been able to accomplish in your years in a career, but also with some sadness knowing that it's the end of, it's closing one chapter in the book of life and opening another when you decide to leave the workforce and move into retirement.
And looking back, you could say it was a pretty wild ride some of the time.
Oh, it was. There's nothing more exciting than an election campaign. I just love it. I thrive on election campaigns. And then, of course, there's the hard work that comes in between. And there's some excitement and there's also some disappointment, depending on where you end up, whether you're successful and you win an election campaign. And then, of course, when your party wins and forms government, that's certainly an exciting time. But not quite so exciting when you move from government to opposition.
How long was your career? Where is it in the record book?
It was 30 years. Actually, it was 30 years in March of 2016, and the election was held on April 2016. So it was just, I was elected first in March 1986. So it was 30 years.
So how many elections did you have?
8 consecutive elections in 30 years.
Where does it stand in the record books?
For a woman in Canada, I believe that's the longest record. I was elected for 30 years. I don't think there's anyone across Canada, any female, that's been elected for 30 consecutive years.
Well, now, the word or the understanding out there is that in the beginning, you were neither particularly politically ambitious nor actually sought after as a candidate. How did this career get started?
Wow, it's really an interesting story. I was very involved on the political scene, but it was always behind the scenes. I was a volunteer and an organizer, worked really hard, and found election campaigns very, very exciting. But it was always behind the scenes. So I got behind a candidate full force. I worked very hard. My husband was a politician, a city councillor, and I worked on his campaigns, ran most of his campaigns. So I was involved in that aspect, but never ever thought that I would run myself for political office. And we had, in 1986, before the 1986 election, we had a candidate nominated to run in River East. His name was Cliff Annabelle, and I don't know if your history goes back that far, but he was nominated and was running for us, and got into a bit of difficulty and had to resign. And it was just a very short time before the election was called in 1986. So they were looking for another conservative candidate. And River East was not a conservative riding. It was held by the NDP at the time. So they were looking for a candidate, and because my husband was a city councillor there, he was sought after by the party, hoping that he might run provincially. But unfortunately, or maybe fortunately for me, his company indicated to him that he would either have to resign his job or he would have to resign from the company should he choose to run for political office. And it was it was a decision that we made together that, you know, his career as a salesperson with Johnson & Johnson was very important, and a political office is not necessarily a guarantee. I mean, there's not too many people in life that have to justify their job every 4 years through an election process. And so we knew that there wasn't a guarantee in political office, so he made the decision to stay with his company. So they were scrambling, looking for a candidate, and River East, a fairly strong Mennonite community, constituency, It was then, and it still is today. And there was some concern that maybe a woman might not be the best candidate to run in River East. And I know Gary Filman has said this before too. Like when my name came up as someone that maybe they should be recruiting, one of the concerns was, can a woman win? Especially because we didn't hold the seat. And anyway, I guess he did talk to some of the players in the Mennonite community out here and got their endorsement to pursue me to run. And it was very short notice. So I was approached and asked whether I might put my name forward. And I kind of thought, well, it'll be 5 weeks out of my life, and I can do that. I can do that for the party. And just gave it my all. And so got the nomination, got out to the doors. It was March and it was cold. And I ran from door to door for that 5 weeks, and I won. Then I thought to myself, gosh, what do I do now? I'd only been inside the legislature a couple of times in my life. And so I was a little nervous, quite apprehensive about what the future might hold for me. And but I walked in the door, got involved in the caucus process, and it probably, well, I sat back and listened. I didn't offer my advice until I was comfortable being able to speak up and say something. And probably for me, the best thing that could have happened was we ended up in opposition. I won this seat, but we were in opposition for 2 years. So it gave me an opportunity to learn the ropes, to understand the political process, and get involved with the party process at the legislature. And so, of course, the rest is history. We were in opposition. The government fell. The NDP government fell when Jim Walding voted against his government. And we were into an election just 2 years after I was first elected. And so that was 1988. And we formed a minority government under Gary Filman. And I was fortunate enough to be appointed to his cabinet.
How many women were in that government?
3 women.
And how many men?
Well, there was only 29 of us. We were just a very slim majority.
3 women.
3 women.
And did you bond?
We did. There was Jerry Hammond and Charlotte Olson and myself, 3 women in our party. Now, there were some on the other side, too, and I can't remember how many, but probably more than what the Conservatives had in the legislature. So there were only 3 of us in the Conservative Party.
Well, people who coach women often say that mentorship is hugely important. Did you experience that?
Oh, I certainly did. And that was my mentor in politics was Jerry Hammond. And, well, of course, Charlotte Olson, too. But Jerry was just phenomenal. She was strong. She really felt strongly about women's issues and women taking a role, a major role in government and in life in general. And she was a real advocate for women and for women's issues. And so she mentored me and supported me and worked with me, and I'll never forget what she did to help me understand the process.
So what they say about mentorship is true then?
Oh, it's so true. So very true. Yeah.
Now, you came from the healthcare background. You served many years as a nurse. I'm wondering what kind of skills are transferable from nursing to politics?
Well, I say that both nursing and politics are serving professions. When you're a nurse, you serve in a different way, but you're looking after the needs of your patients that need your help and your support. They're sick, and they need you to provide the kind of care that they need to hopefully get better. Not everyone does, but I worked probably in some of the most active areas within nursing. I worked in ICU and in recovery room, post-op recovery room. And post-op recovery room was really my favorite because people were in, it was an intense, really fast-paced area to work in, and most people got better. They recovered and they got better. And that was the part of nursing that I really liked. I really enjoyed that. But it was very unpredictable. Days were very busy. There were times when it was so busy that you never got a break. You were on your feet 8 hours a day working, and very unpredictable. So very similar to politics. I mean, politics is very unpredictable. You don't know what each day is going to bring. And election campaigns are certainly very intense. So there's a lot of and also you're serving people and helping people. When you get elected as a politician, you know, there's the community that elects you, and there's an expectation that you're going to meet their needs when you're elected. So they're both serving professions, so there is some similarity there. Now you're serving people in a different way, but nonetheless, they're service professions.
That's interesting, because I think very few people would see parallels between nursing and politics.
Yes, and there aren't too many nurses that have got involved in politics either.
No.
No.
So when you started, given what you've already told us, what issues were foremost on your mind? Where did you think you could start?
Well, because of my nursing background, of course, I had connection into the healthcare community. So there were those within the community that helped me understand what the issues were facing, you know, the healthcare facilities and what they needed. I did see an aging population in our community that needed home care and nursing home services. There was a lack of those, and that was something that I had an interest in pursuing. We have in our community, we also had a young population, young families. We had a very small community club. Gateway Community Club was the only community club in the area. And I mean, we had a little wee